what is happening.
Broadcasting live from the Zimmer Communications World Headquarters.
Great news for the American people.
This is Wake Up Mid-Missouri with Branden Rathert, featuring Stephanie Bell, News Director Brian Hauswirth, John Marsh, and Hannah, the producer.
This is why we listen to you.
Get ready, pal. And now, here's your host, Branden Rathert.
The president has done more to secure the border and to deal with this issue of immigration than anybody else. He really has.
The border is closed. We have effectively managed an unprecedented number of non-citizens seeking to enter the United States.
No doubt about it. Our border is secure.
Ayanna Presley, Alejandro Mayorkas, and Corinne Jean-Pierre. The border is secure. We've been telling you for months, here's why these things matter. We've talked even prior to what happened in Israel. You know, it's not just South Americans that are coming across the border. It's not just fentanyl that then makes its way to mid-Missouri and kills kids. It's not just the fentanyl that's coming across the border. It's not just human trafficking of women and men and children. It's not just that. It's terrorists who make their way into South America and then come through that secure border. And now it matters the whole time, but it matters even more now. Border Patrol saying, hey, we're issuing warnings. We are concerned about what has the potential to cross through the border with Hamas and other terrorists, which, by the way, that's not a new concern. That's something we've been concerned about for a while.
It's not a concern, and I think the number of folks like on a watch list and that we're concerned about that they've even identified has been vastly increased over the last several years. And now, you know, what's, I think, maybe smart on the part of the Biden administration, but frustrating, is that he's got this new package out where he wants to give more money to Israel, more money to Ukraine, and has sweetened the deal with a little bit of border money in there, which I think a lot of us are like, finally, we need some money down at the border. But I think we're going to see some folks move to separate that vote because I think people disagree about money overseas and money right here at home at the border.
It's a good thing we're flush with cash and we can dole it out to other countries, huh, John? We're sitting pretty.
Yeah.
We're doing all right. Everything here at home is good. So let's take money out of producer Hannah's wallet and let's give it to other countries.
Have you made that first student loan payment yet?
Yeah.
It's going straight to Ukraine.
So Biden is saying, so I'll make you a deal. You give us money to give to other countries, and then we'll take money and we'll put it to the border, you know, to protect our country. I'll only protect our country if you give me what I want. And what I want is I want to take Brian Hauswirth and John Marsh's money. I want to take your money and give it to other countries. If you give me your money and what I want, then maybe I'll think about protecting our very own country by increasing border security. Incidentally, increasing border security does not necessarily mean just building a wall. A lot of folks on the left say, well, they want to build a wall. That's part of it. It's part of it. A lot of things we would like to do to secure the border, and it's not just securing the border. It's securing our country. We see the problems, man. The number of PO Democrats in Chicago. These folks are showing up to meetings and say, why are you taking our taxpayer money and giving it to folks that are in this country illegal? We have problems here with Chicagoans. We have problems here with Illinoisans, who, by the way, and we're all the folks here in these countries, in this country, we're Americans. But you want to take our money and continue to give it to folks, and God bless the human aspect of it. I understand that. However, we're also humans. Let's take care of us first.
And some of the people that are saying that are in the inner cities. That's been reported. Not on MSNBC. Their viewers wouldn't know that, but that has certainly happened as well. There's a statistic we had in a story last week about a Columbia man that ties in with what you're talking about drugs, other stuff like that. Fentanyl. In Boone County right now, Columbia, Missouri, Boone County rank in the top 10. That's verified. That number was never released publicly by the federal prosecutors until last week with the sentencing of the Columbia guy that was admitted in open court he was dealing fentanyl here in town and had ties to St. Louis and Kingdom City. Court documents are very vague, but top 10, Columbia doesn't say which of the 10. I would assume probably in the middle of the pack, probably fifth, based on the numbers. And I also noticed in that release, the DEA is involved in that case too.
Yeah.
That's
As a matter
huge.
of fact, several months ago, so I know for sure there are at least 25 deaths because of fentanyl in Boone County. Spent some time trying to get numbers from like Cole and Osage and Montauk and Howard, other counties, and never had success in getting the numbers of fentanyl overdoses, largely kids. And when I say kids, people 25, 30 and under.
That's right.
Fentanyl comes from China, gets into South America, and then comes across what Alejandro Mayorkas, Ayanna Pressley, and President Biden calls a secure border, and then it kills kids here. I want to ask this, Hannah, when 9/11 happened, how old were you?
I was like not even a year and a half old.
Yeah. And I bring this up because, Steph, how old were you roughly? I'm not asking you to give your age.
I was a freshman in college.
Freshman in college. So you were intelligent anyway, already had some political acumen. So you understood the ramifications of what was happening surrounding 9/11, and you understood the fear. Remember what that fear was like, John, in the days following the attacks on 9/11?
It was crushing.
It was all encompassing. It changed everything. And I'm not exaggerating. So if you're younger or that you were a kid during that time and didn't really understand what was going on, I want to impress upon you the magnitude, the effect of what that did and what the fear was like and how many things have changed. You go to an airport now and go through TSA. We didn't have TSA at that time. There's no such thing. All right. A lot of things that happened were because of what happened on 9/11. And I bring that up because a lot of these younger folks, producer Hannah excluded, by the way, young conservative, and we've always appreciated her for that. But a lot of these younger folks, these people that vote Democrat and they vote for Joe Biden, they have no concept about the potential of what could happen now because of the porous border. And that because of rainbows and unicorns, people like Joe Biden, well, we don't need to worry about the border. It's a humanitarian crisis. We want to help these people. Yes, we do want to help these people, but can we? And put ourselves at risk on the level like we did following the events of September the 11th? No, and that's the challenge is a lot of these younger people. So I don't know. What would you have to be, 35 and under, maybe to not fully grasp what it was like to be an adult or to have some political acumen, understand what was happening, and then have September the 11th hit, and to understand the magnitude of how much that changed our lives, and that could happen again. By the way, this could happen again even prior to what happened in Israel. That could have happened anyway because of the porous border, and now Border Patrol issuing an alert saying, hey, with what's happening on a worldwide stage, we need to be even more carefuler now.
Yeah, the day was just absolutely horrible. But there are a lot of young people. I mean, you and I would have been 29 at 30 at the time. Probably those that are 40 and older absolutely would remember it. There's some that would be close to 30 that, would not remember it as well. Or would have been much younger, but those images of people jumping out of buildings still are in my head. That was god-awful.
So that day, but then just the lives that we lived after that. And it seriously, well, I try to never live my life in fear, but that was a constant 24/7, nonstop living in fear because we didn't. Now, we live life differently today, but at that time and for a long time afterwards, by the way, we didn't know. And then there have been other terrorist-related events that have happened on American soil since then. But the way we lived, we are potentially that close to that again, and it's because of Joe Biden. So to your Democrat friends and to folks that voted for Biden, I hope you politely have those conversations with them today and say, listen, here's the reality of what could happen.
And 2 points about that folks won't remember. Osama bin Laden, when he, I believe was the USS Cole in 1998, that was before the 9/11 attacks. We later learned, Brandon, that from federal prosecutors, Osama bin Laden's people purchased that phone for the USS Cole attack in Columbia, Missouri. Yep. Very few people remember that. That's a fact. As Casey Stengel would say, look it up. But also, Governor Bob Holden told me later on the record that they were at Callaway Nuclear and at Bagnell Dam. They were on the highest alert because they were worried it was going to happen here, but there was a lot of worry there was going to be another attack. It turned out there wasn't, but it was just a very, very troubling time.
And I think one of the things that you can just see it now in that people didn't experience that is, and we didn't use the term back then, but if you would have said anything like America First in the 5 years after 9/11, people would have been like, yes, 100. There would be no question. It would be, yes, America first, all the way. Yeah. I can't say on air how people would respond to, if we would have used that term. That's
America.
not a term. Yeah. It's not a term we used back then, really. But now the way that people respond to that when they hear America first, I'm like, how dare you think of America first? We have to think about all these other things. And so I think the way that people respond to that reminds me that not everyone did live through that in that time, because I still feel very strongly about America first.
By the way,
remember how the world kind of changed in the days afterwards? I think about the white powder scares at the Missouri State Capitol, right in the governor's own mailroom and all that, when they had to call out the hazmat folks. The world changed.
It changed, and we could potentially be on the verge of that again, and it's directly at the feet of Joe Biden and the people he surrounds himself with in the White House. My favorite talking point is, this is not a talking point. These are real things. That is how this affects you. I'm being affected by the United Auto Workers strike. One of Steph's friends being affected by the Now the auto workers strike because they want more money and less. They want to work less, want to make more money. Now I'm really upset about these things. We are covering that. And in the House, they want to do like Joe Biden. There's some folks saying, hey, if we do this, then will you do this for us as they continue? What was your reaction to Friday, the Jim Jordan night?
Oh, my gosh. I just can't. I'm over it. Let's just pick somebody. How many people are on this new list? 9?
How many people are in the Senate? Well, we're not stopping until we go through all 217 or 218 possibilities of who could be Speaker of the House.
At this point, let's just draw straws.
I was kind of sad that nobody from Missouri was on the list, honestly.
Right. By the way, I had to laugh at Hauswirth. He said, as Casey Stengel would say, look it up. I used that phrase yesterday. I was having a discussion about, do you grate your cheese or do you buy shredded cheese? I never use shredded cheese because I shred it off the block. It tastes better, and then they don't coat it in cellulose, which comes from sawdust, in effect. And I showed him, like, you see the white stuff on that pre-shredded cheese? That comes from wood.
I'm sorry, but I have a hard time picturing you grating your own cheese.
Oh no, yeah, I do it. Absolutely. I never buy it. But anyhow, I use the phrase look it up. Coming up 8:10 this morning, we have a family meeting. If you listen to the show, make sure you're here at 8:10. I don't know if you want to call it
someone's in trouble.
Somebody's in trouble, John, and we're not stopping.
Not me again, is it?
Until we get to the bottom of this. Please join us 8:10 this morning. If you listen to Wake Up Mid-Missouri, you're a member of the Wake Up Mid-Missouri family, so you need to be here for this family meeting this morning at 8:10. Meanwhile, we're getting ready for the daily DC Rundown with Stephanie Bell.
In Missouri, we face the prospect
to get these appropriation bills done, we must secure our border. If we're going to continue government funding, the border must be secured, and the White House has to realize that and take us seriously.
Byron Donalds, Republican congressman from the state of Florida, on Fox and Friends just moments ago saying, hey, I want to be House Speaker. How about me? And look at that on the wheel. Oh, yep, he's next. That gets us into today's Daily DC Rundown with Stephanie Bell.
There's a lot of new people on the list. Hopefully they learned from last week after Jim Jordan did not get elected. There was a significant pressure campaign done by the Jordan folks. And, sometimes you can persuade people, and other times when they get backed into a corner, they dig in. And that's what happened last week with Jim Jordan. So hopefully this new list of folks, we get some movement. A lot of folks are talking about Emmer. And he is currently in leadership, but a lot of folks now are saying he's got a Trump problem, that he has gotten crossways with Trump. Other people are saying maybe that's just the folks that don't like Emmer are kind of drumming up this Trump controversy, but he appears to be kind of one of the leading candidates.
And now I'm wondering, would that matter? Because remember, Trump endorsed Jordan, as did Sean Hannity, who's here today at 2 o'clock. That did not help Jim Jordan.
Meanwhile, we've got Biden proposing a lot of money while the House is in chaos. He's trying to convince us that, in order to get our border money, we have to approve money for Ukraine and money for Israel. There's $106 billion total in his spending package. Only $14 billion would go toward the border. And Dan Crenshaw, I really like this guy. He had this to say. He said the border has never been a money issue. It has always been a policy issue. And, throwing money at a problem when you don't have a good policy isn't going to help. I mean, he didn't say this, but this is me. Isn't going to.
I'm surmising.
Yeah, isn't going to help things. And, we see that all the time. Politicians are like, oh, let's just throw some money at that. And you're like, what's the plan? We have to have a plan. It has to be, the right policy. And so I'm glad Crenshaw is saying, hey, I think we need more resources at the border, but first we need a good policy and a good plan. So I really appreciate those comments. Also, we're learning more about Bob Menendez. Yikes, he's going to plead not guilty. His fellow conspirators or alleged conspirators pled, I think, not guilty last week. I did find this interesting. I was kind of wondering, with this new charge, what exactly he did. He's accused of passing information to the Egyptians about the staff at the U.S. Embassy in Cairo. He also is accused of ghostwriting a letter on Egypt's behalf, intending to influence fellow senators and urging the State Department to get involved in this dispute that Egypt was involved in. Can you imagine writing a letter to your colleagues, on behalf of, and being like, just sign "Love Egypt," even though you wrote it? Oh my gosh,
love ya. And that's why, again, I hope you, and I know I talk about it a lot, but this is why when you have these conversations with folks that are politically opposed to you, these progressives, liberals, and Democrats, it's another Democrat writing letters allegedly on behalf of a country that's not a big fan of us. And you tie that into the Bidens, whether it's Hunter and Joe taking money from countries because it's money from countries, from people that want to do you harm. I hope you politely share those conversations with folks that think they are Democrats.
Awful. Well, we know we might be voting on an abortion initiative petition in 2024. Some states are voting this year. That includes Ohio. Ohio has a measure on the ballot. The folks out there campaigning against it are saying that it's going to allow partial birth abortions. Others are disputing that claim, saying there's no way that the state could override the federal ban on partial birth abortions, but it's all coming down and getting really heated. And hopefully, I think for us it matters because, we kind of saw what happened in Kansas now, 2 years ago. I think what happens in states this year will really kind of outline how we might see that measure messaged in Missouri going forward and what might work or what might not.
Coming up, that's your Daily DC Rundown with
For the transfer from Oklahoma, who scored on 26 straight red zone attempts, make it 27. Cody Schrader for the touchdown.
How about that big day for Mizzou running back Cody Schrader? Mizzou 7-1 homecoming weekend. How cool is that? Mizzou 7-1. I think they are ranked 15th in the
16th.
16th.
Is that the highest?
Did you just get fact checked by Stephanie Bell on a sports stat?
I was just looking it up because I was trying to remember. Is that when was the last time they were ranked that high? Since you've?
It's not since the past 8 years that I've been a part of Wake Up Mid-Missouri.
It's pretty exciting.
Yeah, by the way, big announcement coming up 8:10 this morning. Family meeting is what we're calling it. Be here at 8:10. There's Stephanie Bell.
Good morning.
Mr. John Marsh, you get a chance to sit down and watch the game for a bit?
Oh, yeah. I was hanging out with our buddy Tyler Huffman from Jefferson City, who combat wounded Marine. Folks know Tyler, and he was named hero of the game on Saturday.
That was really cool. And then we got to do some high school. And by the way, how about Jefferson City High beating a 7-1, or was it 6-1, 7-1 Moberly squad on a feel-good Friday night? Wow.
Happy homecoming.
Happy homecoming for them. There's producer Hannah.
Hello.
My name is Branden Rathert. Mr. Brian Hauswirth is here too. One of the big things that came out in the parade, which was interesting. While we're fact checking, can I offer a fact check here too on the enunciation of a word?
Sure.
No, I'm not doing that. Sorry. Stephanie Bell and I honored to again be a part of the homecoming parade, first homecoming parade in the nation. Some 150 entries. So if my voice sounds a little scratchy this one, I've been sipping on this throat. It's called Throat Coat. I hate the name, by the way, but its specialty is called Throat Coat.
Why do you hate the name?
Just because I'm 16 sometimes.
I don't get it.
They make cough drops too, and they are so good.
Yeah. So I've been eating Hall's cough drops and drinking Throat Coat tea all weekend.
Does your throat feel adequately coated?
It's getting there. I need more. But it's actually if you're ever sick, and I don't know, because we were just talking about this, I think on Friday, those medical remedies that people think work but don't really work, like drinking cranberry juice when you have a UTI, doesn't work unless you're drinking.
Hair of the dog.
Yeah, hair of the dog, which can, in my experience, that would use to work. The idea of drinking chicken noodle soup being that effective on a cold might make you feel a little better because it's hot soup and it can clear your passageways. But that's then when I get to wondering about.
I think that stuff works. I never heard of it till I started joining the Wake Up family, and it was y'all who told me, said, hey, if you're not feeling great, drink this stuff. And man, I think it makes a huge difference.
Yeah, and Brad Trinago, Wake Up Mid-Missouri family member for a lot of years now, does his stuff with Mizzou Sports. He was the one that turned me on to it, and when he turned me on to it, I'm like, yeah, okay, sure, whatever. I really think it works. Or it's the placebo effect. Parade was really cool. 150 entries. Want to thank everybody for coming by and saying hello. And big event happening in the parade. Want to tell you about as it affects politics. Want to get into that, but I want to tell you a story about a young lady by the name of Ann. So Ann, husband, I think at least one child, just hanging out pre-parade. And they're set up not far from where Stephanie Bell and I are set up there by City Hall in Columbia. It's at Broadway and 9th Street. And she's just there. She's got the kid and the husband, and they're getting ready for the parade. And they've got their sack, for the candy that they're going to take home. And they've got cell phones out, and they're taking pictures. Next thing this Ann Tedgerdine knows, she is sitting on stage next to me and Stephanie Bell. Or she is sitting next to Stephanie Bell and I. Or myself. Anyhow, she's sitting up on us. She's sitting up on stage with us. And we were kind of curious about what had happened. They had asked her to be a judge.
And she had no idea that morning that she was going to be a judge. And so she graciously accepted and filled in. And this judging stuff is serious. I mean, there is a binder. There are like score sheets. I mean, it is not easy work. So while her family got to enjoy the parade, she was up there, scribbling, giving all the scores. So I don't think I ever heard who necessarily won, but we had 3 wonderful judges up there with us. We met listener Paul, which Paul, if you're listening, you said you're going to text us today, so we look forward to that. But it was just a great parade. The weather was fantastic, but things happen, right? So I'm not sure who exactly didn't show up, but I do want to give a shout out to the students because they have homecoming. at Mizzou. Not only, the theme this year was First and Finest, and they really do a great job, and a lot of it is student-led. And so, our primary interactions are with the students who are planning this huge parade, scripts, floats, changing logistics, all of these things, and they just do a really I've been involved in events run by adults that is not that well run. So it is a good opportunity for
the House in Washington, D.C.
Right. But obviously a good opportunity for students to learn leadership and to interact with community members. And I think they just did a phenomenal job this weekend and represented the university well.
Yeah. By the way, there was some news regarding the House over the weekend. So we know Friday, old news by now. Now it's Jim Jordan is not the guy. But check this out. Here's one of the things that did happen over the weekend. So Matt Gaetz and the Matt Gaetz Eights, I guess as they're being called, they wrote a letter to their fellow congressmen. And basically the gist of the letter says, hey, this has caused some problems. No kidding. So apparently they didn't have the foresight. They thought somebody was going to be elected right away, and they were wrong. I think as a lot of us knew it was not going to be that easy. But so is what they're saying is basically if you give us what we want, it's like Joe Biden, if you give me what I want, which is more money for Ukraine and Israel, then I'll give you conservatives what you want, and that is more money at the border. And I think Stephanie brings up a good point. Money's fine, but let's have a
good policy.
Yeah. So that's what Matt Gaetz and them are doing now. Say, listen, if you vote for Jim Jordan, we will give you what we want, or we'll give you what you want. You want to punish us a little bit, right? So we'll accept censure if you give us what we want, which is Jim Jordan.
Not going to work.
Not going to work. And then another they firing off letters this weekend, man. Congressman Tom McClintock sent off kind of a real snarky letter.
He did. I don't understand this letter, actually. What are they doing?
He says, your letter of October 20th, in which you graciously offer to martyr yourselves as long as you can get your way, is perhaps the most selfless act in American history. It's hard to read facetiousness in print. I was certain that our Republican colleagues who refused to vote with the Republican majority would have been inspired by your stirring example of party discipline and loyalty to vote with the team, as you so eloquently phrased it. And they said maybe one day a Messiah will come along of your stature. So basically he's giving a middle finger to the other letter.
How is this helping? How is any of this helping? That's what I want to know.
So closer to home, the other big thing that happened in the homecoming parade, State Senator Caleb Rowden making a big announcement during the parade.
He will be running for Secretary of State.
And John,
street talk was true.
Did anybody? Apparently, there was somebody dressed as a witch on a bicycle trailing Caleb's team the whole time. And I thought it was kind of interesting. Caleb, he has a very close family relationship. His mom and his dad especially very involved kind of within his career from his time being involved with the church, being part of a Christian rock band. They're always very involved. They were in the parade with him. But then there's this witch. And I actually did not see it because Stephanie and I were seeing it's incredibly busy, by the way, because I get this too. And all of a sudden I feel the need to, so you just sit and announce floats? Yeah, that's all we did.
How many floats were there again?
150 plus.
Yeah.
And the order is usually last minute changes, and you got to sift through, and then you'll get some of these. The float comes by like 8 to 10 seconds, but you got a 38-second descriptor.
And you're like, what? And they're not always really well marked.
Yeah.
So, and you don't want to call people out of order. So you're like, is that this? So you're kind of like, is that the right person? I don't want to. Anyway,
so
I did a lot.
Yeah, apparently there was a witch following the Caleb Rowden campaign, and apparently there was a sign. I didn't see it. Don't know what.
What'd the sign say?
I don't know. 874-9390 if you can text us. Yeah.
We had a good authority that the witch looked just like State Senator Denny Hoskins.
Well, let's talk about that, though, because who else is in this Secretary of State race? And we did hear that Caleb Rowden had raised quite a bit of money, I think, in the last quarter. So he comes in, I think, as the leader with cash on hand, according to what I'm looking at. But we've got Shane Scholler, he's from like Greene County, Springfield, and he's been in he was at Cole County Lincoln Days last year as a Secretary of State candidate. He's been in for a while. He serves as the county clerk, has a lot of experience with elections. But then Denny Hoskins is also in. He's got, I believe, the next most money next to Caleb. Obviously, a former member or a member of the caucus formerly known as the Conservative Caucus. And then Adam Schwadron has also declared, and he trails as far as the money goes.
John, and the one thing I'm wondering, Jay Ashcroft, has he made the secretary, and Jay Ashcroft, in my opinion, has done some very important work in the Secretary of State's office. Has anybody been more impactful in that office in recent years when it comes to things like, hey, supporting the voter ID and making sure elections are secure? I'm trying to think, has anybody been more impactful in the past 15 to 20 years?
Well, I think, and not to defend Jay kind of took it on the chin from some of our lawmakers and their accusations was he was insinuating himself in the debate at the Capitol where he didn't belong.
Yeah, there was some of that, and here's I always wonder about that when you have somebody in elected office doing other things. Is it a point of privilege? Well, I'm an office holder, I can do this, or also I'm also a voter. I'm also a registered voter in the state of Missouri, and I have a wife and I have kids, and what happens impacts them too. So yeah, I'm getting involved.
I see both sides of it. I think we've heard from Scott Faughn before that he appreciated Jay Ashcroft inserting himself into these debates, and you kind of wonder, well, if you're having a debate in your state house over election laws and your chief election officer isn't weighing in, then like, what are we doing here, right? It makes sense that he should or would have an opinion. I think part of the blowback was when they had citizens showing up and driving to Jefferson City and lining up, that he was kind of eating up time in these hearings when maybe he could have sent a letter or, somehow allow the citizens to have their time. And that's where a lot of the pushback from the Democrats came.
And Scott Faughn, who has the publication Missouri Times, hosts the television show This Week in Missouri Politics. Man, he knows Missouri politics. He's joining us 7:10 this morning. This might be one of the topics we are going to be covering. 8:10. We have a family meeting. Since you listen to Wake Up Mid-Missouri, you're a part of the Wake Up Mid-Missouri family. We have something that we wanted to pass along to you at 8:10. So even if you're not at your radio, when you get into work, you can get online, 939theeagle.com or kwos.com, and you can click front page. It's like a big red button that Hannah has put there. It says listen live, and of course you can do the app also. Coming up a few minutes from now, this is a mode of transportation that you never ever
down 202. S&P 500 down 54.
Futures with Stephanie Bell coming up at 8:25 in the Morning Bell. That's where she does business news, but it's not the boring old guy kind of business news. I'm one of those, and maybe John can relate. Not that I'm making an age thing, John, but a lot of times I'm one of those when I hear business news, and listen, I like to pay attention to the money and stuff, but gosh, it's so boring sometimes. Really, seriously.
Anytime that you or Hauswirth say, John will relate or Branden will relate, it's always an age thing.
You're right. Sorry, John.
My lawyer will be in touch.
Sorry about that. But Stephanie, the way she does it, it's just really cool. It's entertaining stuff.
Someone once told me bored people are boring. So I disagree that business news is boring. And whether we're talking about Elon or the iPhone or the latest fast food thing, it's fun.
And that's why we do the Morning Bell, 8:25. Be here for that. So this is the one type of vehicle you do not want to use as a getaway vehicle.
A riding lawnmower. What's the top speed on one of those things?
8.
Let's see.
Feet per minute. Not even 8 miles an hour.
I think you can soup them up, though, but this one was not.
We saw some in the homecoming parade over the weekend,
yeah,
actually.
We did.
Yeah. I wonder, does anybody actually, and I thought about this. I did motor yard yesterday, 0-turn radius mower, and I'm thinking about our time at the parade Saturday, and I'm thinking about the souped-up lawnmowers that you see sometimes like at the county fairs, and I'm like, how cool would that be right now to have one of those souped-up ones? Because right now it takes about 45, 60 minutes to do this. I bet I could have this done in like 3.5 minutes with one of those souped-up riding mowers.
Now, a quick Google search, extensive research.
Look it up.
Says a tractor-style riding mower typically has a max speed of about 4 miles per hour, while a 0-turn lawnmower has a typical maximum speed of 7 to 8 miles per hour.
How fast can someone run on foot? Like you're better off on a scooter, right?
A skateboard or anything.
By the way, incidentally,
Heelys.
In Tipton, which is kind of like in between Jeff City and Sedalia, somebody was riding a hoverboard in traffic.
Yeah, that was smooth.
Yeah, what happened there?
Rode a hoverboard out in the traffic and got hit by a passing SUV.
And I see that all the time. I was in Jefferson City Saturday night. It seems, I might be stereotyping, but a lot of people that ride those scooters that you rent, they think they think they don't have to follow traffic laws. Just so you know, that is not true. And It's hard to see, by the way.
There was a hoverboard in the parade, too.
So this dude, lawn cutting job went crazy. This is in North St. Louis. 29-year-old dude was unloading a commercial-grade lawnmower from his truck when he was approached. Dude got lawnmower jacked. Didn't get car jacked. Got lawnmower jacked.
Yeah, the guy had a gun.
Oh, God. Really?
He almost got mowed over.
Mowed down.
Mowed down, yeah.
Jumped on this dude's lawnmower, but then apparently left it. And they recovered the lawnmower, but they can't find the robber.
Did they have to run the plates on it?
And how far can you go? Like, how much gas? Like, if you're really trying to, because they said it was like 3.5 miles away. Did it run out of gas? You can't go that far, right?
And I'm wondering, the dude that got lawnmower jacked, do you give chase to the dude? Because you can catch him. I mean, what do you stand there and go?
Run alongside it? Like, hello.
Pick up your phone and call, say, hey, my lawnmower just got jacked. Right now we're on Vanderbilt and 7th Street, North St. Louis.
He had a gun, so I'm assuming that he stayed put, but that's got to be a first, right?
That's crazy. And then I guess apparently the robber figured out, hey, this ain't going that fast, man.
Yeah. He was said to have been last seen laughing his grass off.
Points coming up for John Marsh on a Feel Good Friday. Coming up 7:10, Scott Faughn, Missouri Times, This Week in Missouri Politics, hosts that television show. Talking Notorious KJP. Don't worry about it. The border is secure. We know about all the fentanyl that comes from China, gets into Mexico, comes across our secure border, killed 25 kids in Boone County alone in the year 2022. Don't know how much more in the surrounding counties. It's secure, and the people that are trafficked on a human level, don't worry about that. We've got this border, and now we've been talking for a long time. This isn't a new thing. It matters because we don't know what's coming across our secure border. This morning, warning from Border Patrol saying, hey, because the other thing that we had been worried about, terrorists, and now with the events that's happening in Israel, now Border Patrol saying, hey, we're not kidding. For real, the border, terrorists, people like Hamas, those folks, for real, you got to pay attention. That's why these things matter. You know, it's not about complaining about people. Scott Faughn, Missouri Times, This Week in Missouri Politics, hosts that TV show. He's hanging out in studio with us. And I do want to get to Missouri politics. I only want to spend a minute on this. And that's one of the things we try to explain. This is why these things matter. It's not about complaining about Democrats. It's not about complaining about Joe Biden. It's not about complaining about progressives. There's real life impacts to not securing the border.
There's a lot of people that it is about complaining. They are like flakes and idiots. And then the people in Central Missouri are like Blaine Luetkemeyer, a serious grown-up, does serious things. But I just want to say, Brandon, when you said family meeting, I thought we were supposed to bring the whole family.
And you did.
Ready.
Incidentally, yeah. we have a family meeting at 8:10 this morning.
So I brought Millie and Gussie with me because I thought that's what we were supposed to do.
Millie and Gussie. So Millie been a longtime fan of the show, 14 years old. Millie Faughn. What is your favorite feature here on Wake Up Mid-Missouri?
What's hot with Hannah?
Hannah's fan club. And then Augie, who is named after August Bush. Is that true? Was he named after August Bush?
Oh, absolutely.
Bush? Augie is here too. And
fine German young man.
And students, Blair Oaks.
And we don't hold that against them.
You know, speaking of the border, you know, it was interesting. The folks from Southern Boone crossed the border Friday night, and Coach LePage put a lay whooping on them to take back home.
Come on. We held with you through halftime.
Oh, my
It's
God.
all right,
Spoken
Stephanie.
like a Royals fan.
It's all right, Steph. We can lick our wounds in solidarity because the Pintos got a butt whooping a couple weeks ago.
Well, it's an annual event for both schools. I mean, it's nice of them to come to Wardsville and play one half of the good football.
Shouldn't you have to move up to a different division? That's how, like, other, like, you know, if you keep winning, you should have to, like,
no excuses, play like a champion. Or
move up or something.
As we say in Wardsville, a la champion.
All right. Scott Faughn, Missouri Politics here. Producer Hannah, I'm Branden Rathert, John Marsh, and Scott Faughn. Scott Faughn's kids, Millie and Augie, being here, kind of a field trip day. This is a professional field trip. Get to see what this is all about. We are glad to have you guys.
Can Hannah sign up their permission slips before we go?
Hannah will sign them.
You.
Stephanie Bell will notarize them for you.
No, and represent the kids in court if there's an issue.
Thank God.
No, I have to represent you. Remember, they got that mom who didn't send her kids to school at the, a couple. That was like last month in the Missouri Supreme Court.
In Lebanon, Missouri.
Yeah.
Oh, those Lebanese, keep an eye on them.
By the way, we do have some news regarding the Missouri Supreme Court. I want to talk about that and why it matters. A lot of times I can be just Supreme Court stuff, whatever, it doesn't matter. But as we've seen on a national level, look at what President Trump did with the conservative court and how much that has mattered to rulings that have come out in years. Scott Faughn, Missouri Times, hanging out with us here on Wake Up Mid-Missouri. And seriously, we do have family meeting at 8:10. You get into work. If you're not in the car listening to the radio, you can get online, kwos.com or 939theeagle.com. Listen live, first button on there, or just a good time to download the app.
Brandon kept asking me this question last week, and I wanted to ask it to you. He said, does money really matter? The quarter ended. We kind of got everyone's fundraising numbers. We also got the announcement from Caleb Rowden that he's in the Secretary of State's race. And despite being kind of a late entrant to that, he leads on the money totals. Does it matter? Does the person with the most money always win?
In a statewide race, if there's people running, you give me the person with the most money. And if it's once you break a certain threshold, if you raise over $500,000, then whoever has the most money wins almost every time. It does matter. It's a name ID thing. In Central Missouri, from the state employees to the university, people care more about state government than anywhere else in the state. I mean, you may be followed by Kansas City, Springfield a little bit. I'm not saying St. Louis people only care about things inside 270, that they're uppity and elitist, but I'm not saying that. But here in Central Missouri, we care more than anybody else because it matters more to us. But the fact, if you ask people who the Secretary of State is, most folks would say Condoleezza Rice. They just wouldn't know what that does or that exists.
Yeah.
So having money to get your name out and just be known is everything. In a state Senate race, it's in the rural area, it's geography, then money. In the urban area, it's how crazy are you, then money. But money matters.
All right, our guest this morning from the Missouri Times, host the television show This Week in Missouri Politics, Scott Faughn, joining us in studio.
Scott, maybe I'll ask you the question that Brandon asked me earlier this morning, and he said, who do you think, John, has been the most impactful Secretary of State in recent years? And I know he was pointing towards Jay Ashcroft. Who do you think?
Oh, good. I was worried you were going to ask me about the throat coating thing. My daughter's hearing. The most impactful Secretary of State would be Judy Moriarty because she had to resign. She was quite impactful. I think Robin Carnahan, the last time we had a competitive statewide race for president was 2008. It was within 5,000 votes, Obama and McCain. You had a lot of folks take a fresh look at voting. And I'll be honest with you, I think in a rural area where there's not as many votes, the system is set up for a close election. In St. Louis, I'm sorry, they're not set up for a close election. An election that tight, they just don't have the ability to get it within half a point. So I would say Robin Carnahan was pretty important.
Now, I really enjoyed when you visited with Senator O'Laughlin, Senator Cindy O'Laughlin over, and I think you visited with her right after we heard the news about Margie Van Deven and Desi. Talk to us about what you think, what the impact of her leaving is and what Desi can do to right the ship.
Well, the charter school folks are devastated. She was very helpful to them. You had folks that are generally pro-education, Rick Francis, Mike Henderson, just they threw their hands up. They didn't know what else to do. Cindy O'Loughlin's the most influential legislator in the whole Capitol right now. She'd been calling for her resignation. I guess to me, as someone who has tried to defend public education, and you can point to bright spots in it. I mean, what does Desi do? To me, the only thing I can ever see them do is they can tell you why something is not their fault and not their priority to change, and they want more money. Now, no matter what they do, they want more money. When you were asked, does money matter? I think you asked about schools. I think it does matter. Money always matters. I wouldn't be a Republican if I didn't say that. But I'm sorry. I just don't know what they did. If you come to them with a problem, they were so good at telling you why. No, if you point out corruption, if you point out incompetence in schools, Desi will tell you in 18 paragraphs why it's not their problem, and then they'll want more money to not fix it.
They were the first ones to come to mind when I read that quote from Dan Crenshaw this morning when he said, hey, Biden, if you want to throw money at the border, that's fine, but we don't have a money problem. We have a problem because we have no good policies. And when I heard that quote, I thought that's the schools. They're always asking for more money. And when you say, what are you going to do with my money? I remember a local jurisdiction was seeking a tax increase. And I said, why do you need all this money? They said, well, we haven't bought books in 10 years. I'm like, what? Like that? Excuse me? Oh, we need new books. And I'm just thinking, how? What is going on over there? But the answer is always just give us more money and we'll figure it out. And I don't think that's a good policy.
I'll tell you what I think it comes down to. You look at Mizzou. What an absolute dumpster fire it was about 9 years ago. Could not have been a worse ran institution. Had no support. People thought the legislature is actually a pretty good barometer on what this state thinks. Especially getting a rural area where folks know their legislator. They know. And I think it's interesting. Mizzou had no support, and it was a dumpster fire. People could tell in their guts. You bring in Moon Choi. Have you ever seen a better day for Mizzou? Not just because the football team is good, not just because the basketball is going to be good. The campus is quiet. The problems at other universities aren't at Mizzou. The place is ran as well as I ever remember Mizzou even being ran in my entire professional life. It starts with leadership. And you go to these schools, one bad administrator can ruin everything for you. One great one can change it. And I tell you, the problem with the schools right now, 5% of everybody is going to be awful, right? They just are. Every profession, janitors, superintendents, college presidents. But you have that other 10% that might not be awful if there was a check on them. There's no check on them, and they know that. So the other 10% becomes just as bad as the worst 5%, and the cycle goes around. And Desi, well, if there's a terrible administrator, you know what they'll do? They'll tell you why it's not their fault. They'll tell you why it's not their problem. They'll tell you why they can't do anything about it. Then they'll ask more money for them not to fix it.
They'll bring up the funding formula.
And how would that matter if you're paying? There's an administrator that got paid $115,000 on the promise he'd never come back to Hillsborough. If he would just never come back, they'd give him $100,000 of your tax dollars.
It's a lot of money.
We got about 1 minute here Saturday. Steph and I honored again to MC Homecoming Parade. As a matter of fact, there is a tea called Throat Coat. Stephanie is now a believer of it, but I've been drinking it all weekend because there were 150 entries, and my throat is still, and there's a tea called Throat Coat, and it works. Wanted to clarify that. Your thoughts on Caleb Rowden in the parade announcing he's running for Secretary of State? So I think Jay Ashcroft, in recent years, been one of the most impactful in that position regarding voting, right, stuff like that. Your take on Rowden entering this race?
I think Caleb Rowden is one of the most respected people I've seen in the Capitol. I think he's had the hardest row to hoe for 5 years since any Senate leader since the Civil War. I think if Caleb Rowden has the fire in his belly to do it, he's the front runner. He's the leader to win. I think that after the 5 years he's had, if he wanted a little time off, no one could begrudge him. Caleb Rowden has good judgment. He's the kind of guy you want making decisions for you in public office. He truly is that mature leader that it probably need in Congress right now, but he'd make a good Secretary of State too.
All right, is that one of the because I don't think his popularity on the streets matches up with his popularity inside the Capitol. How do you reconcile that as a candidate?
His popularity on Facebook probably doesn't. You go on the streets, I'm not sure. I mean, I really don't think once you got to Raleigh, anybody know who Caleb is yet. Mm-hmm. It's going to be, can he give enough money to get somebody in Raleigh to remember his name? And I think he can.
Scott Faughn, Missouri Times, you into Missouri politics, that's something you should be checking out daily. One thing you will not find on MissouriTimes.com this morning is the SLU YouGov poll regarding is it Missouri or Missouri?
We just got a comment on our Facebook Live video stream that said, Scott just said Missouri.
We did.
Oh, we're aware.
That's how it said. And why would you trust a St. Louis? Millie, you know how Missouri is supposed to be pronounced, don't you? You're raised right.
Missouri.
Oh,
Missouri.
My girl.
Product
My
of Blair
girl.
Oaks Elementary.
Calls coming from inside the house. Oh, no.
Scott Faughn and his daughter Millie, who is a huge fan of the show because even though she's 14, she likes to know what's going on. She especially loves What's Hot with Hannah, which is coming up just a few minutes from now. And Augie, it's always cool seeing you and the entire family. We have a family announcement here on the show coming up at 8:10 this morning. I want to make sure you're listening for.
And I will always be grateful to Millie for finally getting Brandon to get his crap together. And to mostly have What's Hot with Hannah be on time now after Millie started bugging him about it.
That's right, Millie. So we always say 7:25-ish because I'm always running late. And Millie, it was because of you that we now do What's Hot with Hannah on time. And I want to thank you, friend.
You know what he used to tell me, Millie? When I would say, how come we're never on time? He'd say, well, you're the only one that cares if we're late.
Yeah.
And then you started telling him that you cared, and it changed.
It did, because it mattered to you. Now, we're not going to be on time this morning because we
somebody talked too long.
See? That's what I'm talking
Pointing
about.
the finger at her dad right there.
We will not be on time this morning because we've spent a minute and a half talking about how much we're on time because of you. We appreciate all of you. Scott, I appreciate you, man.
Thank you, buddy.
All right, coming up 7:25-ish, we are going to be doing What's Hot with Hannah.
Got a story that might make you think twice next time you go to order food delivery.
It's coming up 5 minutes from now here on Wake 6:26-ish in Denver, Colorado. So we're almost an hour early for What's Hot with Hannah.
Not how that works.
7:25-ish, which means it's now
7:26.
time for What's Hot. And we're late because we spent a lot of time thanking Millie Faughn. She is the daughter of Scott Faughn from This Week in Missouri Politics, has the Missouri political publication, Missouri Times. She is why I started going to people for years, people in various management positions. Got to be on time, got to be on time. It took the words of a 14-year-old girl to get us to be on time for this, and we spent a minute and a half talking about that, and that's why we're late now.
And she immediately pointed the finger at her father and blamed it on him, which I thought was perfect.
Scott Faughn. There you go.
Now, Stephanie, you work in Jefferson City.
I do.
Do you do a Grubhub delivery very often, or like Postmates?
Never in my life.
Never?
Never. It's too expensive. I'm not going to pay. Like, I will just not eat. And also, I bring my lunch a lot and work from my desk.
Well, so when I lived on campus at Mizzou, we would do it all the time because
you're Gen Z.
Well,
and
yeah, and
waste money.
Well, yes, and walking all the way to your car in the middle of the night is not always the best idea. So it's just easier to have them deliver it to the dorm, and kind of got in the habit of it. Do it every once in a while. It is expensive, but this story might have changed my mind a little bit. A California restaurant owner busted a Grubhub delivery driver tucking into a customer's order in his car. So the Grubhub driver said that they were going to pick up this order for the Grubhub customer, went to the restaurant, picked it up, then went to their car and started eating it.
And was going to give them a half-eaten meal?
Well, so the restaurant owner sees the guy, he confronts him. The guy says, "Oh no, this was for me. Like it wasn't, like I'm not delivering it." Well, turns out he actually did go deliver it, and the customer owner was able to call, or the restaurant owner was able to call the customer and give them a heads up. But the customer said,
"Hey, just so you know, your food's going to be half eaten by the time it gets to your house."
Well, and the customer said that the Grubhub driver had done such a good job of repackaging everything and making it look like it had been untouched that they would not have known had the restaurant owner not given them the heads up.
Oh, that just gave me the chills. Blech.
I've never used Grubhub either, and after this, it's not gonna now for sure. By the way, interesting thing about Grubhub actually came up this weekend. Did the
wanted. Pass. There he is, Valdez-Scantling. He dives, and he's in for the touchdown.
Look who we found this weekend. Patrick Mahomes. Seemed like he'd been missing for a while, John, didn't it?
Yeah, he's back with a vengeance.
How about that 400-plus yards? I think only the second game this year he's thrown for 300-plus yards.
4 TDs to boot.
4 touchdowns, looking pretty good. And we keep it, well, what's wrong with Mahomes? What's wrong? Well, the Chiefs are 7-1. So, really,
not much wrong with him.
Yeah.
He was just a little nervous with Taylor Swift there, that's all.
Brittany and Tay have a new handshake, I guess, that people caught on camera. And then also Travis Kelce, they did some stats comparisons with Taylor in the house and not. And he's performing really well under pressure.
Those were actual graphics that showed up on the screen. Like, the NFL is now tracking that.
Well, they're playing it up. They realize a good thing when they say they were kind of. There were some folks saying, I guess some of the Taylor Swift fans, like, why is Jackson Mahomes in the thing with her? I guess some of the fans not real great about that because he's charged with pretty serious crimes. Charged, alleged, not found guilty. But some of her fans, I guess, not real cool with that. Welcome into the show. It's Wake Up Mid-Missouri. There is Stephanie Bell.
Good morning.
Producer Hannah.
Yo.
Marsh is here.
Yes, sir.
My name is Branden Rathert. We just did What's Hot with Hannah, and she was talking about some Grubhub delivery dude gets some food, and I guess he was hungry.
He got busted by the restaurant owner, no less.
Eating some food, and then apparently was going to try to pass it off to the customers. Like, hey, man, I didn't do nothing to your food. Was eaten over the weekend at a restaurant. I've encountered this more than once, but you ever been like at a restaurant, and it's like it's taking forever to get your food, and the service is whatever, and like there's nobody here. What's going on? Grubhub.
Yeah.
It's Grubhub more than once in any of the DoorDash door delivery services where you say, I want to eat out tonight, but I want to eat out in my own house. So I'm going to order food from a restaurant and have it delivered to my coffee table.
And that's the joy of eating out, is going out.
I love eating out, too.
No, the joy of eating out is not having to cook at home.
No, it is the experience, the ambiance, the vibes. It really is. No, but I am kind of the perpetrator there as far as the Grubhub guy. That's totally what I pull with my kids. I take a bunch of French fries and I'm like, here you go, kids. I mean, seriously, sometimes I'll steal a chicken nugget for myself and be like, oh yeah, you had. They must only put 7 in there, friends.
Oh, sorry. Bummer.
And I have to fact check myself. I did try Grubhub once. I ordered a single coffee, and after waiting for like half an hour, I got a text from the guy, and he said, I spilled the coffee all over the car, and I have to go back. And so I said, forget it. So I tried once. I did, but it's not been great.
So maybe if you've ever been at a restaurant, you're like, hey, why is it taking forever? It'd be interesting to ask around, is what I've been told more than once as well, because we get these people that are ordering food to go, so it backs the kitchen up, and here you're here, and there's only 7 other people in the restaurant, and you're waiting forever for your food. It's because all the people...
And they're short-staffed in the kitchen to boot.
Man.
Yeah, I think I just still blame Biden for why the food is taking so long, because we're paying people to stay at home,
oh my gosh,
they learn to stay at home, and that's why I'm not blaming Grubhub. This is all on Biden.
So I'm glad you said that. Friday night, I had to go into a large-scale retailer, and I swore, I sent a text to my friend right away, I hope to never set foot in this place again because it was so bad. And I'm not kidding. I'm walking through the place. Number one, I had 2 people in customer service could not understand what I was saying. I'm guessing they were from, and they weren't from South America, but I'm like, these you can't even understand what I'm saying, and you're in customer service, and I don't blame the retailer for that. I'm like, this is on Biden. And then I had to go buy a small packet of tools, and it was only like $15.
You had to buy tools?
Mm-hmm. Right?
This is embarrassing.
It's behind a glass case. $15.
What kind of tools are you buying?
It was like some screwdrivers. And meanwhile, next to it, not in cases, are things that are more expensive. It doesn't make any sense, but I'm like, this is Biden because of shoplifting. This is directly traceable to Biden.
Fake eyelashes behind lock and key.
Biden. And then then I finally, and it took forever to find somebody, short-staffed, and who's to blame for being short-staffed?
Biden.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't complain to them, did you?
Oh,
You've been doing that a lot lately.
Yeah, and I do.
You're in a tool store?
No, it was a retail. It was not a tool store. Because if I'm spending money in your place of business, by George, you better get it right. And also, you might want to know. That's the other thing. It's not just about complaining or whining. It's like, hey, maybe you don't know this, but your customer service sucks. service. Especially if it's a small local business. If you are a business owner.
Yeah.
If somebody like on one of your trolley cars was not giving good customer service, would you want to know as a business owner?
I'd be angry.
Absolutely.
And I'd be heartbroken.
But you'd want to know.
Oh, yeah.
So, and that's the reason for doing that is somebody who taught customer service for several years, and that's why it matters and why it's important. It's also good to know when you get good customer service.
That's what I was just getting ready to say. I do not like going to the cell phone store at all. Yeah. I hate it. But I got the best service by a woman named Ronnie at the Missouri Boulevard T-Mobile store.
Good. That's good to know.
It was quick, and I was like profusely telling her thank you. Like it was just wonderful, and it always ruins my day. It's like going to the dentist. I'm like, oh my gosh, and I was like, this has been such a pleasant experience. I'm so surprised. But I think we need to tell people that. Tell it to their face. Tell it to their employer, because people don't like to do that.
Yeah. And to Hannah's point, that I do that a lot. You're right. It's because of poor service, poor employees, lack of work, and that's all the fault of
Biden.
So then I get this stuff, and so then they come and get it out of the locked case because of Biden. People steal stuff, and nobody wants to prosecute it because rainbows and unicorns. And then I still can't take it with me. They have to take it up to the front of the store, and I'm like, okay, is there a place I go and get it? No, just tell the cashier, and they'll know where it is. Okay. Whatever.
And now they're saying that like they don't need store employees. Everything's going to be robots, and we're going to use the self-checkout. But like, how are the robots going to unlock the tools from the thing and then march this up to wherever you need to go? I don't understand.
So then I get to the cashier, and after she gets, and I'm not exaggerating, after she gets done visiting about weekend plans with the gal in front of me.
You are really cranky this morning.
Well, it was so bad. I mean,
yeah,
it was
rough.
It was like you look around like, is Ashton Kutcher here? Am I being punked? It was seriously that bad. So they finally get done, and then I tell the cashier I got some tools, and the woman who ended up helping me said you would know where they are. And she starts looking around. She said, I don't know. Let me call somebody. I'm not kidding. Like, I'm not
amazed you're not still there.
Yeah.
Well, I'm amazed you actually bought tools after all that.
Right?
Well, and you're a holdout. I mean, I love my local small businesses, but I do, shop on Amazon. And you say you don't shop online at all. And so it's important for people like you to be able to go and get a good experience and continue your habit of never buying anything online. But at that point, I mean, that I've gotten frustrated where A, you can't get help, or B, you can't find what you need. Yeah. You don't have a lot of time. So I think people would want to know that, because I think we need to make sure that we are supporting our local businesses, and that, that experience then will shape how you do shopping in the future, which is unfortunate.
So when I finally get done with this, I make a vow. I'm not coming back to this place tomorrow. I'm not coming back the next day. I hope to never set foot. I'm not kidding. Like ever again, because I'm that adamant about it.
Wow.
I text my friends, well, maybe at least 30 days, but I'm glad you said it, Biden's fault, because that's the first thing I'm thinking. I'm like, all of the problems, the stuff locked behind the counter, the poor customer service, lack of employees to help with customer service, and a poor experience. Me not spending my money at this place, they're not going to hurt. They won't miss my money. It's not going to hurt them. Now, if it were a small local business,
it could.
That's a different story, but I thought that exact same thing. All of these issues in this worst ever customer experience visit I had this week, everything absolutely attributable to Joe Biden.
Letters.
All right, let's check the mailbag.
I get letters.
We don't get any letters.
So many letters.
We get texts.
A whole bunch of letters.
Facebook messages.
I'd even read mail from a cow.
This experience was so bad, like I am writing a letter. I'm not calling, I'm writing a letter so they know that it's for real. Listener mailbag.
Like those letters we saw in Congress. They're for real.
Did you see these letters from Matt Gaetz? Oh, my gosh. Saying, hey, listen, this appears, us not having a House Speaker, it appears to have caused some problems.
Huh.
That's in the mail. We have a letter in the mailbag this morning.
Mm-hmm.
Congressman Matt Gaetz and the Gaetz 8 sending a letter saying, hey, it appears it's caused rancor. So they wrote a letter saying, well, if you'll do what we want, which is we want you to elect Jim Jordan. Donald Trump wants them to elect Jim Jordan. Sean Hannity wanted them to elect Jim Jordan. Guess who dropped out of the House Speaker race on Friday?
Jim Jordan.
If you do this, If you vote for Jim Jordan, you can censure us. And censure, by the way, basically it's just it's a letter. It's a letter in your employee file. Hey, producer Hannah was 15 minutes late to work again. That's all that is. It's just a letter. It's really nothing to it. And then another congressman, he sends off a snarky letter saying, man, we appreciate your martyrdom, and hopefully another great Messiah will come together one day. So that's the big thing happening in D.C. Hannah, what's striking your fancy in the mailbag this morning?
I don't even know if I can read this one. Did you see the offer I got on the texter from Randy?
Hannah got an offer.
It's a wedding gift.
I don't know. I think you were why we were doing this.
Yeah, this gentleman who texted us said he has a friend who makes $2 million a year in the sex work industry.
And this was because that teacher in the St. Louis area, she's not in the sex worker industry, but she sells photos online, OnlyFans. She's a teacher, lost her job.
That's the same thing.
42. Well, she doesn't have relations with people.
That's the same industry. But anyway,
it is not the same industry. But anyhow, she makes $42,000 a year, and we support her in doing that. If that's what you want to do.
Yeah, you subscribe to her and everything.
Yeah. But this guy brought up this gift for Hannah. He apparently has a friend who sells her body, and
the friend allegedly told the texter that he should offer her services to my now husband and I.
Wow.
For free.
Did you have anything for the mailbag, Steph?
After that.
Yeah, right.
I did. So we talked about the lawnmower, and somebody, what did they got lawnmower jacked? A guy with a gun approached a lawn care company and took off with someone's lawnmower. Didn't make it too far. And one of our friends texted in and said, hey, I see people around small towns driving their lawnmower down the road all the time, like in Ashland. And I said, yeah, I see that too. I don't know what people are doing.
A certain state representative drives her lawnmower around. She's told us that on the air with CTR.
Oh, yeah.
That's right.
She said other things on the air, too.
So that's the listener mailbag this morning.
We did get a little bit more information on the guy who carjacked the lawnmower.
Oh.
Said they caught him, but he wanted to cut a deal. So
Funny guy.
Very nice points. All right, coming up. So how are you going to top this? We'll peek at your futures coming up at 8:25 in the Morning Bell Business News with a little twist.
A holiday worth celebrating today.
By the way, I want to mention, too, real quick, I've evolved on the idea of being on OnlyFans as a form of sex work. I listened to what the girls had to say because they disagree. I said, I don't think that's the same thing as, because what this texter was saying about prostitution, I didn't think OnlyFans is the same thing. But I listened and I have evolved on that issue, and I agree with the girls about that.
And that would be all, except for this.
Okay, your turn, John.
Yeah.
Sorry.
A Czechoslovakian parish priest had to apologize to the local kids after he stomped their pumpkins flat near his church. Father Jaromir Šmičkal destroyed the carved pumpkins on 2 days in a park in Kurdejev, Czechoslovakia, a village, interestingly, in the winemaking region of South Moravia. Padre had to apologize for the vandalism on the village Facebook page and said he would have acted differently if he'd known the pumpkins had been carved by the kids. He said, when I was leaving the rectory Sunday night, I saw numerous symbols of the satanic feast of Halloween placed on our sacred grounds and acted according to my faith and duty to be a father and protector of the children. Some kids said they were been in tears when they found out their creations had been destroyed. He even went back and stomped some more the next day. He said, try to remember that my duty as a figure of authority and a priest is to protect kids and family from hidden evil, to which the writer pointed out the Czech Republic was considered to be one of the least religious countries in Europe. Now you know the rest of that squash story.
You know, I think the fact that he squashed them and left them is worse than if he just got rid of them completely. Because the kids had to come back and see, the squashed carcass of their hard work. I think that's worse than just taking it away.
You're right. I think you're right on the money.
And as a kid, that's not cool, man. That will
my pumpkin.
That will ruin your day. It will bring you to tears. We had a couple of leftover pieces of mail from the listener mailbag. One of our folks who serves our community by being part of a local law enforcement agency says, thank you guys for pushing the gas tax refund. Just got my check for $143. Have a great day. Appreciate that. And then somebody has sent us a photo, best I can tell, and this is local because there is the name of a town on the truck. And it's hooked up, honest to goodness, to a generator. And in the text, guy says, found an electric truck, and it is pulling a generator with something, and I can't tell if they're using the generator to power the vehicle. I don't know, but that's been one of the discussions as it surrounds electric vehicles, the EVs, is that, what do you do when they die? That's also in the mailbag.
And
you call the electric tow truck.
Perfect. Well, Tim's also got a theory on our Grubhub story, and he said, hey, I think a lot more people are going to this delivery and pickup because they save the money on the tip. That they feel like if you go in and sit down, you have to tip. And so that would also be a Biden problem in that people are, I saw somebody was saying we've halved our purchasing power in just 3 years or something crazy. I'll have to find that exact stat. But I do think people are feeling the squeeze. They still want to, as a large family, we still want to go out to eat. So maybe we order in rather than sitting down and feeling like we need to add 20%.
So you save gas money not having to go to the restaurant, and then you give a smaller tip. And I don't know. So you pay a fee to Grubhub, and I don't know what that is, and I don't know what the
Then you get to tip the Grubhub driver to boot.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the delivery fee that you pay is not, the tip is not included for the driver in that.
So it's separate. So you pay him a fee, and then also a tip, but less than 20%?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The dollar has lost 17% of its
say, I'm sorry. Then Chesbro, another attorney on the Trump team, and I always want to say Cheese Bro.
I know. That's why I was giggling.
All right.
Stephanie gave you a hard fact check in the commercial break.
Well, we had to look it up last week.
Yeah, we looked it up last week because we wanted to be sure because we'd keep saying, Kenneth Cheesebro? And so we had to look at it. It is Chesbro. He pled guilty on Friday. He, too, is going to be testifying. Now, his attorney on CNN over the weekend saying, yeah, but he pled guilty to this. He says there was no conspiracy. There's nothing to worry about even if he does have to testify. So I'm wondering if it will help Trump. Polling, for what it's worth, some quick poll numbers. Brand new this morning, as a matter of fact, within the past hour, USA Today, Suffolk polling. Trump and Biden tied. Trump and Biden, and then you start to add in other names like Kennedy. The polling, for what it's worth, that would help Biden a little bit. Last week, some polling from Harvard-Harris. Trump beating Biden. Polling from Emerson, Trump beating Biden. Another polling from Harvard-Harris. You had Kennedy into the thick. Trump still beating Biden in all of this stuff. And to me, if that holds true, this is really good news because say what you want about all the stuff, the mean tweets, blah, blah, blah. It's the economy, stupid, and it is the safety of our country. This is the Border Patrol saying over the weekend, hey, we're like issuing a warning like the border because we know what comes through that secure border and all that stuff. But now with what's happening with Hamas and what's happening in Israel, they're like, you know, we don't know who is coming through that border. So this is kind of a big deal.
Yeah, I think that poll is very interesting, and certainly former President Trump's going to be a formidable candidate. I don't know, and I've looked at those. Obviously, I think it's a hypothetical head-to-head matchup. Mm-hmm. The Electoral College, though, is still the key, and I don't know. I don't think it went state by state. I think it's more of a national poll, but it's still huge.
And how big is the pendulum on the swing states anymore? Welcome into the show. It's Wake Up Mid-Missouri. There is Stephanie Bell.
Good morning.
Mr. John Marsh is here.
Yes, sir.
Brian Hauswirth.
Good morning.
There's producer Hannah.
Hello.
My name is Branden Rathert. Been doing this for 30-plus years. Matter of fact, in 1994, I was working in Southern Illinois. Working for a company called Withers Broadcasting Company, small local company. And we had some radio stations. And then there was another group of radio stations across the street, and it was Zimmer Broadcasting. And ever since I started working for Withers Broadcasting in January of 1994, from day one when I worked for Withers Broadcasting, I wanted to work for Zimmer Broadcasting across the street because that's how good they were. As a matter of fact, one time I even had an interview with Zimmer. Could not have been more excited. This was 1999. Wow. We have a guy on our country station, on one of our country stations. We have a great collection of folks in the country industry here with Hilly and Hart, and then Liz and Scotty. And Scotty, who's been here for over 20 years in mid-Missouri. He was program director at this radio station in Marion, Carbondale, Illinois, where I had an interview. We've tried to do the timeline. We don't know if he was the guy that stood me up that day on an interview.
Uncle Scotty.
Uncle Scotty. I had an interview scheduled for 1:15, something like that. Waited for an hour and finally walked out of the place, and I was sad because I thought, man, this is my big moment in time with the Zimmer Radio Group. So you can imagine my excitement when in 2015 I thought they have an opening for a talk show in mid-Missouri. And it was time for me to come home. I'd gone and played in Idaho. I was fortunate enough to live on the beaches in Florida. And now this was a sign from God. There was a job opening, Zimmer Radio Group in mid-Missouri. And my parents were getting to that age. It's kind of like streetlights coming on. It's time to come home. Mm-hmm. That's what it felt like. So you can imagine my excitement when I got the opportunity to do some video interviews with them. You can imagine my disappointment when they said, hey, we've hired somebody else for the job. And then you can imagine my excitement when 6 months later they called and said, hey, again.
He didn't work out.
And
awkward.
Yeah.
I remember him, by the way.
Yeah. And I remember how excited my dad was because he felt my enthusiasm. And then you can again imagine my disappointment when in August of 2015, I'm coming to the Zimmer Worldwide headquarters in my car with 175,000 miles off of the Grindstone, 63 Grindstone exit. My car dies.
Oh.
Engine done, kaput. It's August. I'm in a suit. I could throw a rock from where my car broke down to the worldwide headquarters.
But how sweaty were you by the time you showed up here?
I had to call the guy who was interviewing me saying, hey, I'm across the street. Can you come pick me up? Horrifying experience.
I'm the guy standing there in a suit with his thumb out.
And if you can't tell, I really need a job because my car just gave out.
You're stuck with me.
That's awesome.
So I came in and interviewed and got the job, and it was one of the coolest things to have happened in my life. So you can imagine my disappointment today to announce that I'm leaving Wake Up Mid-Missouri. I have taken a job with the Missouri Attorney General, Mr. Andrew Bailey, and I am incredibly enthusiastic and excited to be able to serve the folks of Missouri just in a different way. And I think it's important to know in the conversations that I've had with people close in my circle, a couple of things I think that are really important. Number one, I was not looking to leave the show. I was not. This was something that just happened. I was not wanting to leave here, never wanted to leave here. I really didn't. I think it's also important for me to say, by the way, the last show will be Friday, so this will be our final week of shows together. Last show with me on it. The show's going to go on. It's just going to be different. It'll probably be better. I just won't be a part of it anymore. But what Zimmer and the people here in my immediate life, producer Hannah and Stephanie Bell and John Marsh and Brian Hauswirth and the Zimmer Radio Group as a whole, what they have done for me and what they didn't do to me over the years.
There were a couple times I got a little worried about you.
Yeah. They have been some of the most, as a matter of fact, they have been, without a doubt, the most remarkable people I have ever worked for in my entire life. And I will always be eternally grateful to everybody here at Zimmer, and I'll be eternally grateful to you, because I think it's been cool, like when we went on in other markets here in Missouri and you guys suck and all this. And then a year later to get texts from those same people going, you know what, you guys are pretty good. And that's not me. That's Stephanie and Hannah and Hauswirth and Marsh.
It is you, though. It is.
It's all of us. So
That's
just
true.
wanted to let you know. Okay, what's next?
That's an awkward I want to thank you for your service. I remember when you came on here, and just did a fabulous job. I thought the previous host, I'm just going to say it, was obnoxious, rude, and he was. And that's why he wasn't around very much. I mean, and you brought a breath of fresh air into this radio station and have done a fantastic job. And I am thrilled for your opportunity. But I know the listeners, I know they feel the same way. Very sad, but happy for you.
Well, there's some that won't. For example, the guy who nominated us, or nominated me for Loser of the Week last week, which actually we appreciated. We actually appreciated the guy's text, but he nominated us for Losers of the Week because he didn't like our take on the teacher in Missouri who's on OnlyFans. So that guy might have a differing opinion than you.
Now, I have to ask, because I know that there are several Wake Up family members that have this same question right now. Will you have to wear real shoes at the AG's office?
So when I spoke with Mr. Bailey, there were several things we talked about, and that was top three was can I wear flip-flops while serving the citizens of Missouri in this capacity in the office of the Attorney General. And I think they gave me an answer. I don't know if I heard it clearly, because I'm still fudging on it in my mind.
I think that's him calling in right now to remind you. No, the texts are already rolling in from the listeners. Tracy says, congratulations, Branden, but thanks for making me cry. Melissa says, congratulations, Branden, but say it ain't so. You are going to be so missed. Teresa says, I'm in tears. I didn't quite know if Hauswirth was going to make it through that first, and I think we kind of have an ongoing bet of who's going to cry first. Yeah, we might save the tears for Friday, but so far we were doing okay today.
We are, but it's just those are just some of the texts, and that's just fantastic. And just again, as a listener, I went to the courthouse Friday to the sentencing, by the way, that took 8.5, 9 hours, but in my car and just listening to the show, it's different than sitting in this chair and how good it sounds. I'm going to miss you.
Well, and it's still going to be the show is still incredible. It's just going to be a little bit different. All right, coming up. So last show is Friday. Let's move on to the next thing. Morning Bell coming up 5 minutes from now.
It is a holiday worth celebrating, and we are also
we got rid of Rathert.
Awkward transition, but Hannah did note that we're all wearing black today. Were we in like a somber mood or something? I don't know. This has nothing to do with Branden, so we're gonna make this a little bit more lighthearted going forward.
Thanks for bailing us out, Steph.
It was an awkward transition, but we are celebrating a holiday today, not a holiday related to Brandon's big announcement, but a holiday that I think Hannah will be really excited to celebrate today.
Probably not, but continue.
It is officially National Croc Day today.
Gross.
By the way, Scott Faughn, Missouri Times, hosts TV show This Week in Missouri Politics. His daughter, Millie, who's a huge fan of What's Hot with Hannah, she was the one largely responsible for getting us on time with that. She came in with Scott while he was here earlier today talking about the Secretary of State race and things like that. We stand up to take a picture, and Millie, Scott Faughn's 14-year-old daughter, saw my feet, and her reaction...
Ew. She was horrified that she could see your feet.
Seriously horrified.
I mean, I don't blame her, but...
Which is why you should just wear Crocs. I think the AG's office said you have to wear closed-toed shoes. You should ask about, a pair of dress Crocs, because to celebrate National Croc Day, they are out with the new Croc cowboy boot. I think it runs.
No.
Oh yeah, you got to Google it. It's black. It's actually cute. It comes with the little, I call them charms, but I think Crocs calls them gibbets, and they're like little sheriff stars and other stuff. They've actually got like a spur on the back. They're black. They've got designs. They're really cute. They're way better than those Crocs with heels that they came out with a while ago. But a little history and some more info about Crocs. So it's today, October 23rd, National Crocs Day. They're celebrating Croctober. This is very exciting. They were originally designed in 2022 for the Fort Lauderdale Boat Show. The shoes were such a hit that now
no, they weren't.
300 million pairs of Crocs have been sold. And I'm not surprised that they are a boat
And they're in the news here locally today as well.
Oh, yeah, we've heard that. So they
I think we got fact checked on that.
Potentially. But the Crocs, so I'm not surprised that they were started as a boat shoe. That's when I like to wear them at the river, at the lake. I think they're a really good water shoe. Crocs actually have found their way into politics. So the first Croc was 2002.
Yeah, they're full of holes.
What a crock.
Crocs get presidential in 2007. George W. Bush was spotted wearing Crocs with socks. Later, Michelle Obama and her daughters wore Crocs. And now, again, they're celebrating with this cowboy boot. Crocs got a heel in 2018. I don't think that went over. Was it Balenciaga? It was some sort of fancy brand that was really about that. Crocs also has made a golf shoe in the past. I don't think I ever saw the Crocs golf shoe. I recently visited a local Crocs store, and I am now the proud owner of 3 additional pairs of Crocs with the gibbets, the charm things, which I've never had before for my kiddos, obviously. Not for myself. I kind of wanted to get some.
Now, Stephanie, you would wear these Croc cowboy boots and tuck your jeans into them, wouldn't you?
Oh, 100%. They're cute, though, right?
No, they're hideous.
No, they're cute.
We got sent a little meme a couple weeks ago from a Wake Up family member, and it said, the holes in Crocs are for all your, what was it? It was for all of your pride and dignity to seep out.
You cannot convince me otherwise. I will be celebrating. I'll put my Crocs on later. Right now, I still have my house shoes.
They're down 19 cents per gallon in the past 2 weeks to an average $3.68 for regular. And in the past month, the price is down 40 cents per gallon.
That's Trilby Lindbergh. She knows what's up when it comes to gas and oil prices. Gas prices in Missouri are down. Most expensive counties for gasoline right now, Cole, Boone County for Missouri.
Of course.
Still down. There is a county in Missouri that has gasoline for under $3 a gallon.
Road trip.
That's right. Vernon County, Missouri, Southwest Missouri, $2.98 a gallon. Welcome to the show. It's Wake Up Mid-Missouri. There's Stephanie Bell.
Good morning.
There's John Marsh.
Yep.
Ryan Hauswirth is here. My name is Branden Rathert. There's producer Hannah.
Hello.
Glad you could be here. Snoozing. You hit the snooze on your alarm?
I mean, when it goes
Let me
off,
ask you this. How many times do you hit the snooze on your alarm in the morning?
usually only once, but I set 4 alarms to, ease myself into waking up. So does that count as hitting snooze?
Steph?
All the time.
Yeah. Once, twice, just
At least.
whatever. Marsh, what about you? Do you hit the snooze when the alarm goes off at...
I've been doing the dark 30 thing for so long, I beat the alarm every day.
Yeah, it gets...
Not me.
Just to reset it.
Yeah, and unfortunately, it happens on weekends, too.
Yeah, precisely.
As a matter of fact, for the parade Saturday, man, I was excited to do the homecoming parade with Stephanie Bell on Saturday, and I'm like, oh, man, it's 2 o'clock, and I'm up. So, a study shows that hitting snooze for a short, because I heard this, and I actually heard it from another morning show in the building. I think it was from Shags, from KCMQ.
Like one of those music stations,
Don't
no doubt.
give him credit.
They do not get up at 2 in the morning, by the way. But said something that snoozing is actually harmful, or not harmful, but not ideal, because you get up, you snooze, and then when you get up, because you're getting up again, 5-10 minutes later, you're still tired. The extra 5 minutes of sleep has done you no good. And he suggested, and I have since, over the past 8 years, utilized his advice.
That's scary.
Never use the snooze button after that. And it's like, I had a friend when we by the way, our family meeting this morning, 8:10, announced that I'm going to be leaving the show, the final week of shows for me here on Wake Up Mid-Missouri. Wake Up Mid-Missouri is going to continue. Show is going to go on and just be different. I've taken a job with the Attorney General's office. I'm excited about that. I'm disheartened at having to leave, not having to, but leaving Zimmer, because I love Zimmer. But I asked Stephanie, because she says, "Are you ready to do this?" And I'm like, "I guess." And I asked her, I said, "Any thoughts? Any advice?" And she said,
Rip the Band-Aid off.
And that's how I look at it when
Let
it comes.
her rip tater chip.
That's how I look at it when it comes to hitting the snooze. So in the morning, I don't think anybody likes getting up in the morning unless you're 8 years old and it's Christmas morning. Nobody likes to get up early in the morning. So that's my take on it. Yeah, just rip the Band-Aid off.
Brandon's going to start sleeping in till 3.
There are times over the years, if for some reason, if we have a lot of the show, and that was the hard thing about planning this show, is you can do some prep the day before, you can get guests and stuff like that, but with an evolving news cycle and trying to figure out what does this mean and stuff, it is like getting up every morning and doing a final exam to make sure you understand what it is that you're talking about. And sometimes I even hit the mark. But folks in my personal circle that have said, "Boy, so you're going to have an 8 to 5 job? Now that's got to be great." I like having my afternoons free so I can go to the gym and go out and have lunch with my friend. I like going to the grocery store when nobody else is there. I like going to a doctor's appointment and not having to take time off of work to have to do that kind
Fighting
of stuff.
the morning rush in the traffic.
I have not driven.
Have fun with that tri-level, buddy.
I was telling him earlier. I was telling him before the show this morning that 5 o'clock rush hour in Jefferson City is no joke.
Yeah.
That tri-level's it's a mess, and hopefully Congressman Graves will be able to get some federal funding because it's badly needed.
Is that karma? As much as I've talked about the tri-level
maybe
here,
a little bit.
Guess what? Now you're going to start passing it twice a day in rush hour traffic.
Well, and you got to worry about the bridge, too. That clogs up anytime there's a little fender bender.
And parking.
Thank you for the encouragement, friends.
We're very happy for you.
On the up note,
But also
on a
we hope you
selfish
suffer.
Side, on a selfish side, Brian and I got an insider at the AG's office now.
Well, and it'll be good. It's just I agree, but I'm very happy. But it'll be a good week. You handle it very well.
Thank you. By the way, while you're driving to work, we had this law that went into effect regarding, we call it texting and driving, but really it's distracted driving, whatever. And we know nobody's going to really pay attention to it. As a matter of fact, officials know this because it's like, well, we're not going to enforce it right away. We're going to enforce it starting in January of 2025.
25, exactly.
And I want to preface everything I'm about to say with texting and driving is a bad idea, and I know this because I do it. And I'm like, man, that was dumb. This is not good, and highly discourage it. Don't want you to think I'm being flippant about it. But is anybody, since this law went into effect, what was it, October 1st?
August 28th.
August 28th. Has anybody? I was close.
You were close.
Has anybody? Oh, technically it's against the law now. I'm going to quit texting and driving. Or are you doing this? Are you trying to be even more discreet about it? And it's getting more dangerous. There's an article recently in the Missourian, and they quoted, I think, somebody in law enforcement saying that's what's happening is now we're just trying to be more discreet about it. And it's worse.
Yeah, I talked to Patrick McKenna. It would have been late September. They had a big event over at the Holiday Inn Select in Columbia, and he absolutely clarified, and the Highway Patrol did as well, that they're doing warnings right now until January of 2025. To your point, I can't speak for listeners. I hope they can text us or call, but I will tell you this: August 28th, the day that law took effect, I was with my mother. She needed to go to a couple of doctors, and we were in St. Louis County the day the law took effect. There were at least anywhere from 100 to 150 cars on the road from Florissant all the way to Chesterfield, where she went to the doctor. It may have been higher than that were pulled over that day. They weren't given tickets, although you'd think they were. They were giving warnings, and they were in every municipality. I tend to think those people probably, after being warned, and the fine is very significant. It's hundreds of dollars once this law takes effect. I tend to think they will, but it's a very serious issue because of what happened in Columbia, just down the street on Grindstone. A woman I believe she was video chatting. They talked about it, and hit a guy, and based on what Patrick McKenna and the people at MoDOT said, he was thrown 130 feet after being hit. It's just horrible.
Has anybody adjusted their texting and driving habits? Send us a text.
I have. I
since the law went into effect?
Already before. It's
okay.
It's just I'm not big about it. And if I'm going to have to, I'm going to pull over where it's safe.
Yeah.
Well, but then I was just out in Vegas looking at that, and I was in one of those Polestar cars, and I was admiring it, and it had a big screen, and I'm like, wow, this is so great. It was an EV. And he was like, yeah, you can watch YouTube on this screen, and you can, do all these other streaming things. And so, what are we doing here? I mean, if we're saying you can't use your phone, but a lot of these cars are basically driving a computer screen anyway, I assume that doesn't disengage when you're,
and I'm with you on
that
that one.
Is that also illegal?
Steph, because it's distracted driving, but I think if you look at the nuts and bolts of the law, John, it says handheld communications device, and I start thinking like an attorney, even though I'm not one. Mm-hmm. Okay, could I say, well, my phone, it's not a communications device. I can't call or text. All it does is it plays Farmville or whatever, or Candy Crush or whatever. It's not a communications device. Could I successfully argue that in a court of law? But I'm with, so those, and I don't have a car. My car is almost as old as producer Hannah is. So I don't have a computer screen thing in there. As a matter of fact, whenever I want to back up or change lanes, you know what I have to do to back up? I have to look in the rearview mirror. Or sometimes I even have to turn my neck.
Oh, you poor thing.
It's horrifying. Horrifying. Thanks, Joe Biden. If it weren't for Joe Biden, I could afford a car where I could drive and not have to turn my neck around.
It's hard
to go in reverse. But yeah, those the computers that come in these cars anymore, that would seem to be just as distracting.
I've read the law, and it doesn't specifically say people apparently based on this conference I was at, people have been using their feet to text on a phone. I don't know how you do that, how you hit the button with a foot, but apparently they do that. That's also illegal if you're driving. There are exceptions. I don't remember a movie, and I've read the bill. I don't have it in front of me. I don't remember a movie, watching a movie in the car being specifically addressed. But there are exceptions.
I think it was. Yeah, I think watching a video or a movie was part of the bill.
That would, and again, it may have been phrased differently. It makes sense because they talked about the lady here in Columbia. But the thing I know is it has exceptions for like tow truck drivers or anybody. If they have to report an accident, you can
law enforcement.
And law enforcement. So yes, if you see an accident, even under the law, and you need to call it in to get them help, you're allowed to do it. So there are gray areas. But just use your best judgment. But for sure right now, warning period for the rest of this year and the rest of all 12 months of next year.
Yeah, and please be careful because, and I see, man, especially how often you see somebody in front of you, they start to switch lanes or what have you, and more often than not, when I'm paying attention to them instead of the road, I'm like, look, man, they are texting. Coming up 5 minutes from now, we're going to be doing some leftovers, a family reunion of a different type. This is a different kind of family reunion. Happened over the weekend. Happened in Columbia. Actually happened at Twin Lakes Recreation Area. It was a big old family reunion involving a litter of Labradors, golden Labradors.
Aww.
Yeah, so 11 years old. The litter was born October 15th, 2012. 1 chocolate, 6 yellow, 4 black labs. They were brought to the shelter by a breeder, Jennifer Murphy. This is a story in the Missourian. Pretty neat story. Volunteered for Second Chance organization in 2012. Wanted to help the labs. She took the yellow labs at 6 weeks old to foster in her home. Eventually, the puppies were adopted around the Christmas season, giving the litter its unique name. They're called the Second Chance Christmas Labs, and apparently is what they do then is every year they get together for their birthday and they do a family reunion for dogs. Somebody who loves dogs. I think it's really, really cool, especially that it's been going on since 2012. We're talking 11 years now. Thought that was sweet. Steph, you got anything for leftovers?
I do. We heard some news from the U.S. Supreme Court about Missouri's big lawsuit, Missouri v. Biden. That was the social media lawsuit. There was some success. And that lawsuit was actually originally filed by then Attorney General Eric Schmidt, continued by our current Attorney General. Of course, it went to the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals, and they actually issued basically an injunction saying, hey, Biden administration, you can't be talking to the social media companies about all this stuff. The Supreme Court lifted that and basically stayed the lower court's ruling, so now they can converse, but also will be hearing the appeal and basically doing so in an expedited manner. So Missouri headed to the U.S. Supreme Court.
So is that kind of the big thing? Is the Supreme Court saying, yeah, we're going to hear this case, which I think is fascinating when you think about it. The allegation is the Biden administration. Remember, First Amendment, and government can't interfere with your right to free speech. And so when the president goes and his staff goes and tells these social media companies, hey, you should take that down. Hey, you shouldn't do that. Seems like a violation of the First Amendment. Marsh, what you got for leftovers?
Well, I think you guys have heard it in the news stories all day, but it's been 1 year since the Wooldridge fire burned up, like 3,000 acres and a couple of dozen buildings there. And a lot of the folks who stuck around, unfortunately, didn't have insurance on their property, and they're still hurting. I know there are fund drives set up in Wooldridge. If you'd like to help out, we can point you in the right direction.
And I don't know if you ever had the opportunity to go through Wooldridge, but it's a very tiny community, so you can imagine the fire a year ago, the devastation that it had, not just on the buildings and stuff, but on the people there. That will change it. Producer Hannah, you got anything here for leftovers this morning?
I am seeing that our news has already made the Como Good, Bad, and Ugly Facebook page. Go us.
So we had a family meeting at 8:10 this morning. If you're a listener to Wake Up Mid-Missouri, you're part of the Wake Up Mid-Missouri family, and hopefully you join us for our family meeting, 8:10. I announced the Wake Up Mid-Missouri is going to be changing. This is my last week of shows. I'm going to be, my last show will be Friday. The show with Stephanie and Marsh and Hauswirth, producer Hannah. The show is going to continue. I just will no longer be a part of it. So the Como Good, Bad, Ugly, which part of that did it make? That's my first question, John. They're saying right on, good. We're glad it's fine, seriously, because I know there'll be some folks. Hey,
it's a mixed bag. I'll say that. Mixed bag.
Well, how about that? I wanted to pass.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you. Janae Edmondson. I don't know if that name rings a bell for anybody. She was in a fact tragic accident earlier this year in St. Louis. She was the young lady who came to visit the Show Me State, St. Louis specifically, for a big volleyball tournament, along with thousands of other folks. And she was a young lady who was hit by a car. Had a double amputation. That was really one of the things. It's not the thing, because Kimberly Gardner, the former prosecutor of St. Louis, she was already in a downward spiral. She was circling the drain, and this kind of cemented it because her inability. This guy that wrecked the car should have never been on the street. So that's how you might recognize the name Janae Edmondson. She is now 18 years old. She was 17 years old when this accident happened earlier, but last week the now 18-year-old walked without crutches at a Friday night football game at her old high school in Smyrna, Tennessee. This is according to her mother, who passed along the story to KSDK. That is the NBC television affiliate in St. Louis. And by the way, they do have a GoFundMe campaign. It's Pray for Janae. Last check. So they had a goal of about $900,000, but they raised more than $836,000. And incidentally, there was a study, I think it's University of Toronto, and they monitored downtowns and how downtowns are doing. And how they are recovering since the government pandemic of 2020. And for big cities, I think it's 50 to 60 cities on this list. St. Louis is dead last. And this amidst very high crime stats for the city. Horrible. And they beat San Francisco had been worse. And so you look at the